Hello, welcome to today's Black Seas Shipyard episode. Today we're going to cover kind of how do you come up with colors for your sails. Sometimes on some of the ships you actually have to paint some of the sails. The furled sails and the especially on the bowsprit and the main and foremasts. So today let's take a look at that. Alright, welcome to today's shipyard video. Now before we get started, I want to make one kind of disclaimer. Concerning sails, really no one should nitpick anybody's choices about whether, what color to make their sails. If you look even at the current examples that we have of sailing ships today, you can see several differences. Here's a couple examples from the U.S. Constitution. And you'll notice nice bright white stripe along the hull, and you'll notice the sails are a little off-white. Here's a Russian ship, a nice white hull, and the sails are not so white. Here's the opposite extreme, another happens to be a Russian ship, I think it's an Arctic exploration ship, and it has what would basically be dark sails. But in all honesty, a lot of our perceptions about the color of sails come from movies, paintings, or models. So sometimes here's an example of a model, an actual sailing ship model with cloth sails, and here's the color as it looks there. So kind of again, a little off-white, even a couple different shades it looks like in that same model. And then of course painters have a completely different impression on us. And here's an example where the ship almost looks like it has, again, the Constitution, has almost looks like white sails. So really, what matters is the way you perceive in your mind's eye what the sails should look like for the ship you're trying to paint. So don't critique anybody else's choice in colors. Just support them and know that there's a wide variety out there. So with that in mind, let's consider that we have to start trying to figure out what colors our sails should be based on, well, the sails we're actually trying to match. And honestly, Warlord does have, for a lot of the ships, they have several available sails sheets. So let's go ahead and down the table and start our discussion looking at the different sails that are available to us. Okay, so here's a partially used sheet of sails. This is what Warlord now calls their light sails, or light color sails. These are what came with all the kits when they first came out with the Black Seas. And most of our ships use those sails because that's what they came with. It kind of looks a little darker when you have the the sails curled because the way the light hits it, and it's a good effect from Warlord. But anyway, shortly after, they changed things up a bit. They instead released this medium sail sheet. And to give you an idea, there's the difference. After that, almost at the same time, they released a sheet for dark sails. And here's the medium as a comparison. So, and these came with my merchant set. That's why only the frigate size is used. So anyway, you've got, even with Warlord games, they give you 3 different color sails in their line. But if you're going to paint your mainmast, foremast, and bowsprit furled sails to kind of match, you're going to need to find the right color. So today we're going to talk about mixing up some colors, just an option. Let's go down the table and take a look. Alright, first thing you're going to need are some toothpicks, and one of these hard plastic, clear plastic, I'll call them trays, mixing trays. These are actually the back end of the clamshell boxes for most of the Warlord games products that come in blister packs. Dice, metal models, for bolt action especially. Some of the other games that they have, and they're not the only ones, a lot of companies use the clamshell type box. Just open her up, cut off the piece, and you have a nice palette. Now, the advantage of using this palette is that you're going to have a place to
obviously mix it, but it's flat. You won't be the paint won't be seeping in, drying out because it's on paper or something, and you have a nice clear color, so that the color of the thing you're painting or mixing on doesn't change the apparent color of the paints. You can also, when you're done, leave the paints there, and as I've done here, I've actually put a code for each of these different mixes. If this is my coding, it's got BGW, 3 different colors I'm using to mix up what I was trying to get at. I forget what this was for, but if I want this color, I know what mix to get. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to make 4 different sail colors and see what they look like. Okay. So first thing we're going to do, we want to make sure there's no price sticker on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and cheat and just grab this one that has no price sticker. All right, first thing to do is grab your paints. Now, you can choose to use out of the box. You can use something like Iraqi sand, or I'm using Vallejo paints, by the way, as you can't tell, or dark sand. Any light color would work. That you want to choose. I like to use these 2 colors on the decks. So to give me some contrast, I don't use these for my sails. Remember, your models, your choice what color you want to make the sails. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to base it off of the khaki color. Okay, but as you can see, that's a pretty dark color. Not quite dark. It's a little bit too dark for even the dark Warlord sails, and in fact, it's a little bit greener than what their dark sails are. So what we're going to do is we're going to take white in addition, and we're going to use these 2 colors only to come up with a mix. Now I have my 2 colors here, and I'll show you how to make a couple more, but this is essentially, I believe it's equal parts white and khaki, and this one's, I believe it's at least 4 parts white to 1 part khaki, and you can see by the colors at the bottom of the difference in color. Okay, you can see this was a bottle of white paint that I put a little bit of khaki in, and this is a bottle of khaki paint. I put a little bit of white, well, a lot of white in. So we're going to start with khaki, and we're going to add white. Oh, you'll need toothpicks, by the way, to help do this. All right, so here's our palette. First thing we're going to do, shake these up really good, because you'll make sure the pigment is evenly dispersed, or as evenly dispersed as possible through your paint mix. And do not thin before you do this. You want to make sure that if you thin, you might get a slightly different pigment solution or intensity, and that might throw you off a little bit. So we're going to start 1 drop at a time. So I'm going to do 4 drops here. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. Okay. Now we're going to start here and work our way around. So for 1 part khaki, I'm going to do 1 part white, 2 part white, 3 part white, and 4 part white. And then when I'm done, we'll compare them and see what the differences are. So 1, 2. Oh, sorry. That was okay. So that's 2. We'll do it the reverse order. This is 1. Okay, 2, 3 here. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see how thick those are. And that again is intentional, because if they're new, they are equal pigment density from what the paint manufacturer designs, right? If you pre-thin them, you might not have them thinned equally. So let's start. We're going to start by mixing up the white and khaki. So instead of you watching me do this all day, we'll go ahead and speed this up and do all 4. Alrighty. Okay, so let's take a look at these. You know what? I'm going to get a different backdrop so it's black. You'll be able to see a little better. Alright, change the lighting a little bit to help see it a little more clearly. What we have here, this is the 1 khaki, 1 white, 1 khaki, 2 white, 3 white, 4 white. And you can see the difference. Now it's kind of hard to tell the difference, you know, step to step, but you can see the difference between 1 and 4. And if this is not light enough, you just keep adding white. Once you figure out the color that's right for you, write it down, keep it on the palette. You can tape a little white sticker next to it. In that case, then you can always remember, and you'll have your little paint chip. That's basically these are now. You've made 4 khaki sail color paint chips. So if I want to match to a card or sail, I'm going to go ahead and do exactly that. We're going to go ahead and pull out, here's the medium. So medium kind of, on average, looks a little bit like the 1-to-1 mix. Dark is too dark for that mix. And since this is more brown and tan than it is more brown, basically, than khaki, we'll probably want to use a different color mix for that. But for now, this is our paint chip with our different sail colors. Now let's take a look at what it looks like on the ships. Alright, so here's some ships. Now, where the sail color mix comes really into its own is with these smaller ships like the schooner, sloop, and cutter. There, you've got entire sails to paint. So, let's take a quick look. This is my, well, this is what I call my dark canvas. I came up with the lighter canvas because this looked a little bit too dark when it was furled. And you can tell the difference between the bowsprit sails and the main sails. Okay, when I go to the large merchant, did the same thing using dark sails. Dark sails on the kit with the dark khaki. And that matched out pretty well, actually, when you look at it. So the 1-to-1, even though it didn't look right on when you compared the sail pieces, the sails to it, it actually did come out pretty well. All right, now this will give you an idea. This is the light color. There's a white. This one is not quite finished, but that's the light color next to the white. I never said I was a great painter, but there is, you can see it blends in a little better to the sail color than what was on the Centissima Trinidad, but it's definitely not white, which is what I'm going for. I don't want a white one. Now here I went with a dark on my schooner. So those are, but on my cutters that I'm working on currently, I went with the light, and you can see the difference. And both look great. It's just what color do you want, right? So go ahead, feel free to mix up your paints and come up with the color you think matches what's in your mind's eye for your sails on your ships, especially the smaller ones. I hope you found this helpful. Hopefully, it kind of encourages you to try mixing the paints. You saw there's only a few drops. There is a lot of paint in one of these bottles. Mixing up a few samples like that is not going to run your paint dry. Matter of fact, can't tell you, I had to paint an entire army, a couple armies, using khaki all over it in bolt action. So it took a long time to get rid of the khaki to the point where I could mix it in pretty well with white to use a whole bottle of it. This other khaki I just bought is taking forever to get rid of. So don't feel afraid like you're wasting anything. Part of the fun of painting is experimenting and getting the colors you want. Feel free to start mixing it up and mix up to get the right color sails for your Black Seas fleet. Alright, thanks a lot guys. Share, like, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.